thousands of dollars, almost like $100,000, is that you're more likely to get the money on the other side, whereas sometimes if you go 80 grand into the hole for a workforce that the average median income is only 40 to 60 grand, I mean, that's literally going to be with you forever. So I would say we want to be careful on the way up. I think that there's absolutely good, and then you really want to be really careful about how you choose to invest in your brain after that, because it depends on what the income trajectory is and who you know.
I'm just gonna say, so my degree is in film production, so kind of useless. But here's my thing: I only took out one student loan my last year, and that was actually to fund my grad film. I took out $5,000. That's the only debt I had, and I knew I'm like, oh yeah. But for me, it's because I knew I didn't want to have that student loan, but I also knew that my parents couldn't bail me out or whatever. So I just worked while going to school. I lived with my parents. I chose university near my parents' place, and that's how I funded my thing. But after that, oh my gosh, everyone I knew was doing a master's or an MBA. Believe me, my professors were, when I said, how do I get a job in film? They're like, well, you can do a master's in film. That's not the answer to my question. And I knew a lot of people that did that because they didn't know, but it's not, wait a minute. So what I did, because I said, I've been to school 3 times, true. And I've saved cash for each of them. And they weren't extra degrees. I got a certificate in digital marketing from U of T Continuing Studies. Super affordable, got me my last job. So sometimes you just need to get a certificate that'll cost you maybe $1,000 instead of $10,000. And the last thing I did was I did my Accredited Financial Counselor Canada certification. That was all kind of online. I think it cost me $1,500, but now I have this, credentials that, when people are like, what are your credentials? I'm like, here they are. So sometimes you don't need to get another degree to go beyond your bachelor's degree to advance yourself in your career.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah. I guess the moral is just because it doesn't have a title next to your name, or you don't have to add one on LinkedIn, doesn't mean it doesn't have validity, and you can still actually pursue learning in different ways: podcasts, articles, ebooks, certificates, continuing schools of education. I think we have a question. All right, making me jog. It's all good. A little cardio.
Cardio. This panel is awesome. You guys are dope. So I was a keynote speaker to an event called Fuck Up Nights, and I have done everything.
Heard of that?
It's awesome. We celebrate our fuck ups, but I have done every single thing that you said not to do. Everything from all in entrepreneur. I had a tip top condo that I sold. I sold my BMW for my dream. I'm nuts. I'm let's go. And I want to know, what do you I wish back then somebody had taught me the financial literacy basics. And mind you, now I'm part of a group of women that try to break their first 7, and I've learned a lot. But there was no one telling me the fundamental basics. So I want to get from you 3, maybe you 2, your best sort of book, website, or beginner thing that gets your shit in order from scratch. And Think and Grow Rich was a huge thing for me, personally. It shaped my life. So I want to hear from you, what books, website, resources, beginner program from scratch that's I didn't know what EBITDA was. I didn't know what a peak profit and loss statement was. I didn't know all these things till I was generating 6 figures plus, right? But back when I was just beginning, had someone taught me that shit, I wouldn't have sold my condo and my BMW, But I made those mistakes, I fucked up, but you own it, and that's part of entrepreneurship. And so.
Awesome. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, you know what? I'll really quickly here. There is, and I've made mistakes too. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was I graduated high school, and this guy was on YouTube, and he was talking about buying silver. I was like, holy shit, this guy's a fucking genius. So I took $10,000, and I was 20 years old. Bought silver, and I lost $7,000. It's still in my house, in my basement, right? My mom's house, and it's worth $3,000, right? So I've made mistakes too. So in terms of the books, I love Millionaire Teacher, a great book. Money Master the Game is super high level. And then honestly, this isn't a plug or anything. Like, I really like Jessica's podcast. Like, she has a podcast. It's phenomenal, and I listen to a lot of podcasts.
More money.
And you know what it is, guys? It's like this panel, man. It's not high level. Like, it's not like, oh, like, let's talk about dollar cost averaging and then rebalancing, right? Like, it's super edgy. It's relatable, and so. Millionaire Teacher, Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins is high level, and then Jessica's podcast, Mo Money Podcast. Those are my kind of top 3.
Well, that's so nice. I did not. Yeah, Millionaire Teacher is my go-to book whenever someone's like, I need to learn how to do investing. Because it was honestly the first investing, because I've read a lot of books, and it was the first investing book that I'm like, oh my God, finally I get it. He just breaks it down really, really well, and it's all about not starting out rich. It's about like how you can prepare for retirement and early retirement financial independence when you have an average salary. So I think lots of us can relate to that. So that's a really good book for sure. I also really like Shannon's book, honestly, and it's because it's just fresh in my mind because I just read it. For a book that doesn't make you feel like shit, because so many books out there make you feel so bad about your mistakes and so guilty. And it's really nice to read a book where she gives real life examples from some of her clients on like what were their problems and how did they solve them. It's like, oh, great. And you'll probably find yourself in a couple of those examples. Another good foundational one is Wealthing Life Rabbits by Robert Brown, and another really good investing book for like how do I actually invest for myself, how do I do DIY investing, you've probably heard that term, is The Value of Simple by John Robertson. He just has actionable steps on how to do it.
I also second the plug to Jessica's podcast. It's amazing.
Shannon was on it.
I was also on it. So I think that fundamental books, well, I can't say my book, but my book. And so there's that one. But in all honesty, I think Wealthing Like Rabbits, I would second that as well because it's funny. And so it makes it learning about finance is not a drag, and it's not like shamey as well. So I would do that one. I also really dig the Canadian Couch Potatoes podcast. I don't know if you guys are fans of that. I really dig it. It's a passive investing podcast, and his blog is also a really great place to just learn. I call it Little Black Dress of Investing. It's like goes with everything, real easy. It doesn't have to be, you're not shorting the financial sector or whatever. And so those are two really good like fundamental places to go. If you want to get your shit together. And then I'm trying to think of like one more awesome resource that I would, I love Rob Carrick, yes. So the Globe and Mail, Rob Carrick writes about money, and he writes about real life, and he gets people that write into him, and then he answers their questions. So it's like very relatable, real life situations. Instead of it being all theory, it's very practical.
Love it. I will add, I guess, 2 books. One that's a little more technical, not super technical, but I mean, this is probably top of line for me, is The Intelligent Investor. It's by Benjamin Graham, and he's the one who was actually the mentor to Warren Buffett. And so I'm more of a fundamental investor, if you want to call it that. But I also watch a lot of YouTube videos of maybe speeches that Warren has given and maybe talks and interviews. So I do